Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you your top 8 headlines developing news stories that made it throughout the week. Now, these top 8 stories are only documented for records and to highlight topics for those in the business of talk radio, talk media, and those who just want to stay informed. Now, let's get to the top 8 stories that made it into The Mediator this week. Story number 1. The Syrian War has now dragged on past the 6-year mark. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to global affairs, you may not understand the timeline that put the spotlight on the immigration crisis, the war against the Islamic State, and the conflict that became a battleground for global powers like Russia, Turkey, and the United States. Well, now past the 6-year mark, continued delays over a ceasefire is causing more casualties in Syria. Now, there have been over 470,000 deaths and 1.9 million people wounded. Now, this escalating war has also spread rare infectious diseases and caused millions of Syrians to flee from their homes. There have been numerous human rights violations, a mass influx of outside conflict, violence, and interference, with only one question from people wondering, when will this war end? Story number 2, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, a new topic of discussion as the middle class, rich and poor, fight about who's playing their correct role in regards to spending the government's money. Now, the Trump administration has proposed a complete overhaul of SNAP in the midst of the battle. SNAP was formerly called food stamps. I guess the Trump administration wants to replace food stamps with a box of non-perishable, non-fresh foods rationed by the government given to the citizens who need it. Now, the outrage is centered around the effects that this will have on an already unhealthy poor population. Some think this will motivate the poor to work, and some say it will make things worse. SNAP cost the government $70.9 billion alone in 2016. The program assisted roughly 44.2 million Americans with a check that averaged about $125.51 per person each month. The program has also been a topic of abuse by many Americans who want justice when it comes to government spending. Story number 3. What now with North Korea now that the Winter Olympics are over? We may not have had any missile threats during the Winter Olympics, but now that they're over, only time will tell what all happened behind the scenes and the rest between North Korea and the United States while the Winter Olympics was going on. Now, many diplomats are hoping that negotiations and U.S. sanctions will put an end to North Korea's nuclear plans. Only time will tell, but North Korea has been labeled the rogue nation no matter what, because they gained global attention by firing long-range missiles at other countries and even the United States, but they did not hit their targets, luckily. Now, as war rages in Syria and North Korea continues on their untamed path, diplomats and activists are appalled at the lack of leadership by world leaders in regards to this matter. They've been able to do this and still be at the negotiating table. Now, the world seems to be in a standstill in the wake of unusual conflicts that continue to hit headlines every day in regards to global threats. The rest and unrest seems uncertain as people continue on their day. Story number 4, pollution and U.S. corruption investigations. Two headlines that keep emerging in the news focusing on the war against pollution and the corruption investigations that keep popping up in regards to the Clinton era, along with allegations of collusion between President Trump and Russia that just won't seem to go away. Now, there was also a pollution case that has been set aside for corrupt officials in California charged with burying hazardous waste. And the saga goes on with widespread cases of corruption across the United States, even in top level branches of government. Now, such headlines may not catch the attention of normal people or seem important, but the lasting effects of corruption often lead to an uncertain outcome for the future. And those who are usually involved end up in some very, very deep trouble. Now, you may keep seeing these headlines emerge each week about the investigations that continue to go on in high places within the United States government. The question remains is who is corrupt, and is there any suspicious corrupt activities that have been going on? And if you have been watching the news, you may realize that the answer is yes. Now, if you do not know, corruption often has a way of plaguing innocent bystanders, people who have no clue of what's going on. There's been some very strange things going on in the headlines in regards to the United States high-level officials. Story number 5. What is right when it comes to the illegal immigration crackdown? Now, since President Trump took office, ICE has reported a 41% increase in arrest of undocumented illegal immigrants. Now, many of these undocumented immigrants had no criminal record. In 2017 alone, there were more than 155,000 immigrants arrested, and 30% were not criminals. Now, the focus now is how important to the U.S. economy were these 155,000 and who will fill the void now that they're gone. Now, the center of the still developing story is what responsibility will fall on regular United States citizens now that a huge chunk of the illegals are no longer in the country. Now, the centerpiece of these headlines are Note 1, citizens, and Note 2, officials that are still trying to adapt to President Trump's leadership style. Story number 6. Don't forget that there is still a global war going on drugs. Now, from operations in the United States to Russia and even Argentina, there is a real war on drugs going on that may even seep into your local doctor's office unnoticeably. Now, the lives being lost and the money geared in this global war probably is enough to fuel a mission to the moon. Now, headlines in cities like Baltimore, Chicago, Miami, and many more continue to leave people all over the world wondering if there is an end or if there is any hope to a problem that just won't seem to go away, the problem of drugs. The issue of how drugs turn the zombie stories from the olden days into a reality may not only be a problem and an issue, but they may not be going away anytime soon. Keep an eye on the problem and the woes of the drug epidemic plaguing the United States and the world. Story number 7, and the final 2 stories that made it into the Mediator this week. How bad is sexual misconduct? From Red Cross staff members to Congress, Hollywood, and even right at home in your neighborhood, sexual misconduct is all around us and has been swept under the rug for years. So why is it in the headlines now? That is the question that many victims who have been screaming foul on this matter for years are asking. And not too many people are innocent when it comes to sexual misconduct. Now, in a world plagued with high divorce rates, single parents, and men and women all over searching for love, what can we expect in this matter? Do we expect people to behave? Now, such headlines will probably continue to develop as the attention centers around human trafficking, rape, and victims who have been in the shadows for years waiting for some justice reform when it comes to the justice of being a victim of sexual harassment. And not only just sexual harassment, but sexual misconduct, sexual assault. It's all over the board. And the final story that made it into the Mediator this week, story number 8. Does the United States have a gun or gun law problem? Can they equal themselves out? Now, after a Florida teen unloaded on students in a school and years of mass killings in regards to guns and gun violence, it seems that the country is now starting to wonder if there will be any end to the Wild Wild West's fascination with guns. Now, this story is not only serious, but it's bringing out the beast in people that usually stay quiet in regards to this matter. Now, while no one seems to have the answers, it's evident that America is fed up. The people of America are fed up with being terrorized by people who just want to make everyone else's lives miserable. Now, I would not be surprised if this headline stayed in the media and in the news throughout all of 2018. Yes, folks, it's that bad. Well, those are our top 8 stories that made it into the media this week. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to show us some support, go to our website and buy something, click on something, watch something, or just read something. Thank you so much for tuning into the media this week with me, Brian West. Have a good week, everybody.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The media is